All right, man, peace. So, brothers, ever since the NBA's 2018-2019 regular season ended and proceeded into the playoffs, as I've watched many of the series go by and by, first round, second round, it was very clear to me when examining the Boston Celtics that Kyrie Irving mentally had detached from the squad since before the All-Star break. And they were simply hoping that maybe a switch would turn on in the playoffs that never really came on. Even when I watched the Boston Celtics series against the Indiana Pacers, it was very clear that even though the Celtics swept Indiana, that the only reason why they did so is because Victor Oladipo was not there and the Pacers simply did not have enough firepower. There's very little doubt in my mind that had Oladipo been there, the Indiana Pacers would have won that series. They would not have swept Boston, but they would have won the series. Boston pretty much had to come back from a deficit in probably 3 out of the 4 games. Most of the games they were trailing going into the fourth quarter against the Pacers, and they were able to win at the end because they had more overall talent. But one could quickly see that the synergy still was not there. And then we saw it carry over into the second round. They were able to steal a game against the Milwaukee Bucks. And from there, the class and the chemistry of the Milwaukee Bucks was able to win the day. And just observing Kyrie in that Milwaukee series, it was very obvious to me. I'm not going to say that he threw the series or he tried to sabotage his own squad, but he was so mentally, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually detached from the team, especially once things started to go downhill, that he was missing shots that he normally does not miss. Kyrie was bricking mid-range jump shots. He was airballing turnaround jump shots that he almost normally, if he does not make the shot, it comes close to being made. He's on the hole, as they say. And that brings us here to Mr. Spencer Dinwiddie, who's going to be Kyrie's teammate on the Brooklyn Nets next season. He's going to reveal that he and Kyrie spoke in the middle of last season, and Kyrie asked him what the atmosphere was like with the Brooklyn Nets, which very obviously is a tip-off that Kyrie was thinking about leaving from December. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
All right, welcome back. Whitlock and Wiley. We're joined now by Brooklyn Nets point guard Spencer Dinwiddie. And
your neighbor.
What do you mean? Who? Oh, my neighbor.
Damn, you forget your homies, don't you? Forget your neighbor.
Yeah, Spencer, we live in the same place.
Yes, sir.
Spencer, great to have you here. You've done some recruiting this offseason. You were instrumental in the Kyrie Kevin Durant saga.
Mm-hmm.
Your relationship with Kyrie, where did that start? How instrumental were you?
I mean, it actually started because we played against each other in high school, and St. Patrick's killed Taft High School. We reconnected All-Star break 2018, and just talked as friends, really. I mean, there's been so much made of this situation, but, you know...
You guys reconnected in 2018. In other words, you guys reconnected in time for Kyrie Irving to get the lay of the land in Brooklyn.
We're going to ask you questions about your team or your situation or your contract or things like that. You're going to answer them authentically. So it's less so like I was pitching Kyrie all summer or season or whatever it is that, hey, you got to come to the Nets. You know, because when he had made the Boston comments in preseason, I took him at face value and he meant them. So it wasn't all on me.
Well, that's the thing. Kyrie Irving says things that he means at that moment, but in the end, he does not mean them. So he's not someone who you can particularly trust his word, which can be a problem down the line. We'll see how things turn out with Kyrie and the Brooklyn Nets. The one thing I know, there's an old saying, you lose him how you got him, right? If you run and you try to steal this man's woman, you're going to get that woman stolen from you. Kyrie has shown that he can be the instigator of chemistry issues on 2 different teams. So that does not bode well for the Brooklyn Nets, especially if things start to go bad.
Yeah, but you said Kyrie started talking about playing in New York City in December. And I ain't got the schedule in front of me, but I think that's like in the season still. So how did you take that, and what was that conversation about?
Well, what he said, it was in reference to my contract extension. And he said New York might be fun next year. So he didn't say, I'm going to New York next year.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Right, but that was an introductory way of him trying to let you know that he wants you to tell him what it would be like if he considered coming to New York. And just the fact that he was speaking to you, you knew that he was not talking about the New York Knicks. He was talking about the Brooklyn Nets. That was a cue for you to tell him what it would be like should he decide to join your squad.
So with that being said, I just took it at that. He's kind of cryptic sometimes. It is what it is. Like,
of course he's cryptic. He's hermetic, in fact. The term hermetic means sealed.
It was obviously free agency was on his mind. I mean, how couldn't it be? It was coming up into free agency. It's a big year for him. He was super focused on season at the time. Still, he wanted Boston to make a run, obviously. So there's a lot of things that was going on through his mind, and we talked about a myriad of different topics.
Listen, you're a point guard. He likes to dominate the ball. There was no fear of that for you in terms of your development and your role in Brooklyn when you start talking about bringing a Kyrie Irving on the team?
Of course not. I mean, nothing against Spencer Dinwiddie, but he's in his late 20s. At best, he's going to be a third guard on a championship-level team. He pretty much is who and what he is. And all of these guards today are combo guards. You really don't have real point guards in the NBA anymore. At one time, we said Chris Paul, but even Chris Paul has become a bit of a combo guard. If you have these point guards who like to distribute first, like an Elfrid Payton or Rajon Rondo, they're considered antiquated. They're also considered a liability on the floor offensively. So all these guys are combo guards today.
Not at all. To date in the league, I played with great PGs. You know, I played with Brandon Jennings before he was hurt. Played with Reggie Jackson. He had obviously a spectacular year. Got him the $80 million contract. Played with.
Right, but no disrespect, brother. Neither one of those two guys were great point guards. Reggie Jackson up there in Detroit is a backup point guard who's starting. He's a major problem for them and always has been. I see Terry Rozier is going to be basically the Reggie Jackson of Charlotte. A backup point guard who's going to get decent money. He's going to get a lot of minutes, and he's going to expose all of his flaws.
During his All-Star year, played with Jeremy Lin. Unfortunately, he got hurt.
Jeremy Lin, brother? Really?
And now Kyrie. I mean, obviously Kyrie has the best resume of...
No. Obviously, Kyrie is about 3 levels above all the guys that you named.
5 of them. But I want to win. And so adding a talent like Kyrie and also subsequently KD only helps us as a group. And so I believe...
And you're a great piece. You're a great piece. So you really should not be concerned about losing time with Kyrie Irving out there on the floor. When you could bring in a Spencer Dinwiddie and give him 24 to 28 minutes a game, he can definitely be very impactful.
You know, part of growing and getting better is being able to test yourself against the best, whether that's, you know, competition or on the same team. And I envision playing with him.
Now, you guys had great chemistry last year, which led to your success. The Kyrie situation in Boston, they were brewing, things were going well, and then last year occurred and didn't go so well. Any fear of the chemistry issues that may happen if Kyrie is now on the squad?
Of course he has those fears, but he's not going to say them on national TV. Why would you put that energy out there before the first game? I understand you have to ask that question, but you know he's not going to give a real answer.
You know, obviously the Boston situation is what it was, and I wasn't in that locker room, so I can't comment on that specifically. But for us, I feel like we all have a vested interest in seeing this go well, right? And I make...
Clearly, right now, there's going to be a lot of pressure on your team to, at the very least, win in the high 40s next season. You upgraded, at least the speculation is that you upgraded at the point guard position. You did not lose any other major players. I mean, Jared Dudley, he went to the LA Lakers, and that cesspool. But your squad is supposed to be much better this year, even without KD. The Brooklyn Nets playing in the East, they should be threatening to win somewhere in the 50-game area. I said high 40s, but in all reality, even without KD, they should finish somewhere around 51-31.
That in the past, too. I took less than a contract extension to stay because I believe we would build something that we could win. If I start acting crazy, then it makes no sense. I should have just left and got more money, right? If he's going to come home and put the city on his back, per se, right, then he's got a vested interest in making this go well. If KD's going to...
He does have a vested interest in making it go well. And what that does is that adds and creates even more pressure. It's a more pressurized environment that Kyrie's going to be in. And he's someone who believes that he's a 6'2" version of Kobe Bryant. So what that's going to entail is that it's very rarely ever going to be his fault. Even when he has a 7-for-24 game, he's going to blame the coach. Kyrie Irving is the same guy who said, "I'm a basketball genius." That was his encoded, that was his hermetic way of saying, "I'm never wrong." Okay? Once again, Kyrie is a follower of Hermeticism. Hermeticism basically entails that what you're doing is encoded, that it's sealed. So he thinks that he's much deeper and smarter than everybody else, and the brother is relatively intelligent. But his hubris is going to lead to a lot of problems wherever he goes.
and play with his friends, and not stay with the Warriors. And he has the best interest in going well. Everybody across the board has, a tie into this that maybe is a little bit more than just, oh, well, Brooklyn offered me a max deal. I'm just going to go there and we'll see what happens.
Spencer, Kyrie's reputation is he's quirky.
Yeah.
That's one way to describe it. Makes some flat earth comments. Now, great player, now on his third team.
Yeah.
What do you know about Kyrie and his personality that perhaps we don't know, the public doesn't know? Is quirky a proper description?
Well, here's the issue with Kyrie and the quirky description. And this is why Kyrie remains quirky. It's because the people who criticize him never really have the ability to correct him with empirical data and facts, because the average person in this society is an idiot. It's just the facts. So what that does is that encourages possible disinformation to be accepted as real information, because it's never vetted. No one vets anything anymore. People just run with something new so that they can play the contrarian role. And it's very popular today for people who've never done any research to stand on top of a soapbox and proclaim some doctrine or some ideology and feel emboldened at the fact that there are very few people who can come against them, because, once again, the average person is an idiot. So yes, Kyrie is, you can consider him quote unquote quirky. I would say that he's curious. And they say that curiosity killed the cat. Sometimes you could be too curious for your own good, especially if you're not devoted enough to your curiosity to vet your curiosity.
I don't know an NBA player that's not quirky to some extent. I truthfully don't. And that,
I don't doubt that, especially in this day and age where there's so much idolatry. After you have so many people tell you how great you are and all these beautiful women trying to hit you up on social media to give you some ass, you're going to start to worship yourself, and that's going to make you quote unquote quirky. That's why I tell you, brothers, a lot of these guys, they enter into the NBA, the NFL, and they might start off a certain way, but after they're around a particular environment long enough, especially pertaining to self-worship, they start to embrace that ideology, because that's all they know. That's all they're subjected to from the time they're 20 years old all the way to 35, 36, if their career is that long. So it's going to be very difficult for them to humble themselves or make themselves part of a movement or a belief system that entails humility. It's very difficult.
and that's including myself, because sometimes I think I'm the only sane person left on earth, which would probably make me pretty quirky, right?
Yeah.
There we go.
I agree, sir. I guess that we all experience that.
So,
Right.
no, with him though, he's got a big heart for his family. He's very driven to be a master at his craft, and he's a pretty authentic person too. So, with all those things, I mean,
I don't dispute that at all. That's one thing that I definitely will give Kyrie Irving credit for. He's certainly a curious brother, and beyond that, he's very authentic, as I've already stated. Many of the members of the mainstream media have the same ideological beliefs that Kyrie Irving has, being into Hermetics and Luciferianism, or what they call New Age spiritualism, but they won't come on TV with it. When Kyrie started to present the pyramid with the eye in it and a lot of these other symbols, there were NBA players who were thumbing up those posts, Kevin Durant being one of them.
I'm excited to be his teammate, and we haven't had a situation to date over the last year and a half or so, where we've really bumped heads or really had too much, I guess, disagreement. So we'll see how it goes. Obviously, we haven't been on the same team yet, but I'm excited.
Now, how has your background shaped your journey? You're from LA like myself, got on that yellow bus all the way to Taft High School, wasn't a one and done, a superstar collegiate player, and now look at you, man, one of the best players, especially in the reserve role coming off the bench. How has that shaped you, that role?
It's built the work ethic, it's built the mental toughness, and the conviction to say what I feel and stand behind it and not be afraid of the backlash. To your point, like I wasn't at any point in time considered to be the best player, right? But, to fight off being in the G League and coming back, and last year we averaged 17-5, one of the best 6 men in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I made the comments before the season that nobody could guard me and everybody laughed at me, and was like a top 3 ISO player in the league. So, if looking at all that stuff, it's just, hey, I am who I am. I intend to be, one of the most dynamic people on our roster. And I'm looking forward to trying to win as many games as possible.
I heard you and Marcellus whispering before we got on air. Your mom, a college professor at USC.
Yeah.
What influence has she had on you?
Big time influence. Academics were always first in our household.
Yeah.
That's obvious. I can tell by how you speak and articulate your thoughts. And the NBA has a lot of very erudite and learned cats out there. And hopefully they start to speak up and speak out more when it comes to certain issues pertaining to the league. Cats like Dinwiddie and CJ McCollum, when they speak, they normally have real things to say.
That's why Harvard was my second choice in college.
Harvard was?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. My top,
what are you doing?
my top three were Colorado, Harvard, and UCLA. Those were my top three. I credit my parents for letting an 18-year-old kid make his own decision and go to Pac-12 because he had dreams of going to the NBA. When most probably would have forced me to go to Harvard, right? But it's by far academics were number one. Mom stressed that. Still scared.
Well, shit, brother, you could have went to Harvard and then went to the D League. You went to Colorado hoping to be a lottery pick or something, I'm sure. You could have went to Harvard and excelled there and then came to the D League.
This day.
Love it.
Hey, Kevin Durant, we've been spent a lot of time talking about Kyrie. Kevin Durant also joining the Brooklyn Nets. And Kevin, Kyrie, and DeAndre, according to the narrative, are all friends.
Yeah.
And the friendship was a part of their decision to join up and all go to Brooklyn together. Any concern that three outsiders, and again, they're now your teammates still, are going to come in and a new dynamic, a new chemistry in the locker room with these three guys playing such an important role? Any fear of that or this whole friendship movement in the NBA? Your thoughts?
I would say the friendship movement probably stems from AAU, right? Because it's not like, hey, I'm the top person from California now.
Let me say this very quickly, because so many of these younger players are forced to respond to assertions by many of the pundits in the media about why there are so many quote-unquote friends in the league. They've always been friends in the league. They've always been guys who have known one another since high school. I just think that it's far more known today, and the players are far more public in how they hang out with one another off the court or in the off season. Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, Chris Mullin all knew one another from high school. From high school. From college, Michael Jordan knew Dominique Wilkins, Charles Barkley, etc. So it's nothing new.
And I'm going to put my city on my back, and now I have beef with all other states, right? And demographics, right? You're getting to play all of these elite players at 10, 12, 14 years old, and so you kind of grow up together too, with social media also making the world smaller. So
is this good for the NBA?
I mean, I don't think it's bad. It's part of life. Things progress, things change. You know, I mean,
it's okay for the NBA as long as the competition is fierce on the floor. The problem with the league is not that everybody's such good friends. The real issue is that the league has become, at least in regards to how they play offense, the paradigm of offense today is way too much like a three-point shooting contest. And it takes away from the outstanding athleticism that the NBA was known for in the 1980s going into the 1990s. Now, in the 1990s, the league became too defensive. And they tried to offset that by making the league more offensive. And now it's become too offensive. The perfect balance was in the mid to late 80s, where you had the athleticism, you had the offense, and you had the defense.
Not going to see the same type of beef probably that we used to in the old days, but
that same competition.
Well,
AAU competitions.
There's still a lot of rivalries that go on in the NBA. It's just not publicized as much because a lot of people don't want to disrupt their, forward-facing image. Because if you're the only guy in the NBA fighting everybody.
That's definitely true, and that's always been the case over the course of various generations. Certain dudes had beef that very few people know about, like Michael Jordan and Reggie Theus, or, for those of you cats who don't know, Michael Jordan's wife, Juanita, was dating Reggie Theus before Michael Jordan got to Chicago. So Juanita was dating Reggie Theus, Michael Jordan gets drafted, Reggie Theus, I believe, gets traded, and then she starts dating Jordan. So on the court, Reggie Theus and Michael Jordan would have little beef or little issues where Jordan would always want to score 40 or 45 on him. But there was a lot of that all throughout the NBA. And I'm sure that it still exists today.
You're crazy. But if the whole NBA is fighting, then you're normal, right? So I can't go out there and be like, oh, I hate this player and that player and that player and that player and that player, because then I'm going to be looked at as this wild card, and it's harder for me to get a job.
Now, broke that one down. The story goes that KD and Kyrie were a package deal the whole way. Belief in that?
Yes, I believe that.
As I heard it when it originally started, yes, that's what I heard. But as it got to, not the 11th hour, but let's say like the 9th and 10th hour, I heard Kyrie was coming, you know, and he was very firm in that decision. And then it was all about whether KD was going to join him or not.
KD was definitely going to join him. KD needs someone to lead him. KD's never been a leader. He's never going to be a leader. In OKC, it was Russ. In Golden State, it was Steph. Now in Brooklyn, it's going to be Kyrie. So KD, the real issue with KD, people always say, you know, Kevin Durant's looking for happiness. He's looking for this. He's looking for that. He's really just looking for someone to dog walk him. No disrespect to the brother. But he would not go to a place where he had to be the unquestioned leader. He knows that he's not built for that. The reason why he left Golden State is because he believed that they were basically treating him like a prostitute that they found at the bus station, when in reality, he was a great wife in his mind. I'm just using, of course, an analogy. But that's how he felt they were treating him, I believe. Because they kept reminding him about how he fled OKC to come to them, when in reality, they both mutually needed one another. And I think that if Kevin felt like Golden State told him how much they needed him earlier and would not have been playing so many games off camera, he probably would have resigned with them. But the lack of gratitude that they showed told him, you know what, I need to get the hell up out of here, because sometimes people do not respect what you bring to the table until you're gone. And that's why we saw the overflow from Golden State of, we love you, Kevin. You're the best player in the league, Kevin, all that shit. They were trying to come hot and heavy with that during the stretch run of the playoffs in 2019, when they probably should have been doing that off camera from 2016.
Quickly, medical prognosis is one thing, player prognosis is a different thing. You're looking at KD and that Achilles. When y'all expecting them back?
KD will be back no later than late February, early March. Promise you that.
I don't know.
You covering up because you know you're about to lie. No. Don't do that.
Hey. Whenever KD comes back, he comes back, whether that's this year, next year. We feel like we're capable of being one of the elite teams in the league when he does. And
you guys should be a very good team even before he comes back. But when Kevin Durant comes back, and I do believe he's going to try to come back late February, early March, watch out for the Brooklyn Nets as a dark horse in the Eastern Conference. Because there are no great teams in the East. None. Philly, they have their flaws. Milwaukee has their flaws. Toronto lost their best player. So there's an opening for the Brooklyn Nets if they push themselves, and if Kevin Durant can come back healthy to a degree.
Prior to him coming back, we still feel like we're one of the upper echelon teams in the East.
You lasted that long without going PR. PR then. Love it.
Thank you, Spencer. I'll see you back on the Wilshire Corridor.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. Very good interview with the brother Spencer Dinwiddie. The Nets are going to be a team to watch out for in the Eastern Conference. So peace.